X.
This is
No, but I've been to Rack City, Magoo.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. Across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon.
It's like 75 degrees or something.
It's 85 in this room right now. I'm assuming it's 70, 75 outside.
It's a little swarm.
It's our first show of the week right now, which is weird to be doing on a Wednesday, but that's what we're doing. It's our first show of the week. As we were telling everyone before we started, all the people in the Fed Haters Club, I got pretty sick over the weekend, and I remained pretty sick on Monday and Tuesday. We've also got dogs in the room with us right now. They're hanging out, just chilling with us. But anyway, yeah, there's a dog. Charlie's got a dog right there. And so they're chilling. That's Toby, and then Simba is over there as well. And anyhow, we got stuff to talk about. You know, it doesn't matter what our personal life stories are right now. It just matters what's going on in the world of political news.
There's a few things to discuss.
Yeah, there's a couple things. So the House released they passed their kind of spending bill. Now, by kind of spending bill, what I mean is they passed essentially, here's what we want to do, and then we're going to work on that, and the end result's going to be way worse than even the bad thing that they all decided was good to go.
Yeah.
But there's no like specific, I keep seeing people say these specific things and these specific cuts that are in this bill and these specific
I keep seeing people say it's already happened.
Yeah, it's not.
Like
these
Medicare patients are currently dying in the streets
right now in anticipation of a potential, at most, $88 billion a year decrease, which should kick in 2 or 3 years. And they're dying on the streets right now. Yeah. They're already
Doctors
dying.
just quit treating them. You know, you walk into the door, like the emergency room, you're like, are you on Medicare? That started happening today, I think. And they're like, are you on Medicare? And they're like, yeah, we'll get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
Let's see. We got that video from Massie that, of course went viral. But here's just a little bit of a rundown with the agenda here. Let me give you this rundown. It's got $2 trillion in spending cuts. Now, this, of course, they always speak in 10-year figures. And, okay, the thing just actually disappeared, didn't it? That's awesome.
Your screen
the screen actually just went out. Okay. And now it's back again. I don't know what's going on with the connection with this thing. There's something weird with the connection. Anyhow, it's
not showing the cameras either.
Oh my God.
On Discord.
Come on. The whole thing just went out.
We should probably
that's because I got to hit the camera button again once the whole thing disappears.
We probably have to take it all down
and then put it back up
again.
Yeah. We could do that real quick.
Yeah.
You want to stay live while we're doing that?
No, let's do it on Friday.
Okay, we'll do it once we set it back up. Come Monday next week, everything's going to be fine.
It'll be fine.
I promise you.
Everything's going to be fine.
So, assuming
this is because of the cuts.
This is what happens when they try to cut some spending.
You can't even host a podcast.
Now, the first thing you got to realize is that this is all 10-year figures on everything. And what you have to also realize about that is that nothing ever stays the same for 10 years. Okay, the last time they talked about something in a 10-year figure, guess what? We're changing that. We're changing that up right now. And so whatever it is they say they're going to do over the next 10 years, that's not what's going to happen. So whatever it is they project is going to be the deficit or the debt or whatever added on, none of that matters at all.
Let's just look at next
year. It's going to be more.
Why can't we just look at next year?
Just 1 year.
Yeah.
These people can't put together, but we got to do 10 years for people who just can't do a budget anyway. They can't even do one. No. I want 1 good year of a budget. No, they got to give you 10-year numbers because it makes everything bigger. Like they're going to cut $2 trillion over 10 years, which is $200 billion
which
per
the government
year.
spends in about 10 days.
Yeah, it's roughly nothing is what they're going to cut. Now, this is from the New York Times, and of course, you know how we got to talk about this. There's tax cuts and spending increases in this bill. All right, now, for government math, what you have to realize is that Donald Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was
2017
it was a temporary thing. They had decided when they voted that the current tax structure was correct, but we were going to go on a little tax holiday for like 5 years or whatever the amount of time was that it's been.
8 years.
I don't know what the number. It's too much math.
10 years. It's a 10-year plan.
It's a 10-year plan. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, and so when they decide that they're going to keep the tax rates that we have currently right now, that is a tax cut, and that is something that adds to the deficit that we weren't projected to have, because they were planning on us magically taking in another $400 billion next year because tax rates were going to go back to the correct, and instead they're going to stay here at incorrect, and that means we're going to be $400 billion more in the hole, okay?
Yeah.
And so that's that 4.8 trillion tax cuts and spending increases, and then they're saying the deficit increase over the projected deficit that we would have over the next 10 years would be $2.8 trillion, because the projected deficit doesn't have these tax cuts in it because that was supposed to expire. Does everyone understand? Is everyone following along right now?
Yep.
This is government math, which means it's the numbers are made up. The dollars don't matter. Okay.
Exactly.
None of it matters.
And at the end, you lose the game, they win.
Yeah. And so by right now, about 97% of America has stopped paying attention, because what we just did over the last 5 minutes was not fun at all. But you've got to be able to follow along through what the bare minimum, which is what we just said, which is still almost nothing. You got to be able to follow along through that and then come up with some kind of a conscious ideological decision afterwards. But really, most people gave up.
Yeah.
And that's why nothing ever changes, because it's all super complicated, I guess.
But divide that by 10 though. So divide everything by 10. So they're basically you're looking at a deficit of $280 billion a year.
More than the current projected deficit,
which is $2 trillion.
2 trillion, yeah.
So now we're looking at
basically say 2.3
trillion.
Essentially, yeah. And so, yeah, it's $280 billion or more over those 10 years. We'll play the Thomas Massie video after he came out. He voted no, of course, on this. And here's
the only GOP member.
The only Republican to vote no.
Oh, he got a lot of hate.
And here we go.
Yeah. Can you just talk to us? Are you still a no? Is there anything?
They convinced me in there. I'm a no. Look what, let me, their own numbers. If the Republican plan passes under the rosiest assumptions, which aren't even true, we're going to add $328 billion to the deficit this year. We're going to add $295 billion to the deficit the year after that, and $242 billion to the deficit after that, under the rosiest assumptions. Why would I vote for that?
So are you solidly a no?
Yeah, they convinced me. I was a lean no until this meeting. Now I'm a no.
This no confirmed.
This is
you
a
were
no.
Why? Why?
They're talking points. Look, these are not something I made up. This is the leadership's talking points. It adds $328 billion to the deficit. It adds $295 billion to the deficit the year after that. The only way they get to this magic thing where it's not going to kill our country is 5 years from now, they imagine that 2.5% growth accumulates, and that even right here they say they're going to cap discretionary spending. You think we're going to cap discretionary spending and then spend at the rate of inflation after that? That has never happened. So their assumptions are wrong, but even if you take their assumptions at face value, they told us in there they're going to increase the deficit in 2025 by $328 billion. And I've been here long enough. I've been here 12 years, so I've seen a 10-year plan or two come all the way to 10 years. Under Boehner, we had these 10-year plans. Under Ryan, we had these 10-year plans. Anything past the third year never happens.
Okay. And so that's true. That's basically what we started off saying.
And people hate him because he's right.
Yeah, it's only the first few years that matters, and the problem is while there are projected cuts in this, and actually there are proposed more cuts. I'm not talking about tax cuts, by the way, nothing like that. I'm talking about what the government spends money on. There are actually more in proposed cuts, what the government spends money on, than proposed increases, what they're going to spend money on. The problem is here's what's going to happen. The things that they want to increase spending on, which are like the border and defense, they're going to give you the 10-year number, but they're actually going to spend all of that in the next few years. They don't have to spread it out over 10 years. It's just they can't do it by more than this amount in 10 years. And all of them know that there is going to be a new budget in a few years where they're also going to vote for more spending on that stuff. And so they're going to spend all of their 10-year allotment in the next 2 or 3 years. And then the cuts of $2 trillion are also spread out over 10 years. Guess what they're going to do? They're not going to do those cuts in the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to say, we're going to start cutting that money at year 4 and year 5. And then there's going to be a new spending bill before that. Then that's actually not going to happen.
They'll just take those cuts right out.
And Massie knows that that's what's going to happen. And not only that, it's they're like, well, we need to find $2 trillion in this to cut. They won't even find $2 trillion in there to cut. I'd be lucky if it's $1 trillion. What makes me so mad about this is they spend essentially $7 trillion every single year. And people like Massie, they give him a hard time because they're talking about cutting. In reality, what would they actually cut? Maybe $100 billion, something like that. All right. And maybe that's not even going to happen out of a $7 trillion budget. And like, if they can't do more than that, it's pointless. What Doge is doing is pointless.
Yeah.
Sorry for your white pill Wednesday right now, but we miss Monday and Tuesday. And so this is kind of a makeup day. All right. What Doge is trying to cut, even, they say it's something like 55 billion that they've cut. Some of the real numbers have come out. It's actually closer to like 10 billion that they've cut. Some of the contracts they've canceled are for things that already got paid out and that already happened. And now it could be good if you cancel that contract. It means you're not going to re-up that contract next year or the year after. But they haven't the cuts. Even Elon Musk was out there talking today about how dangerous this situation is and how we have to tackle the deficit. And then even he says something later on, like, we think we're going to be able to find this, by cutting waste and fraud. And I'm sorry to tell you that that's not going to be the case. The only way you're going to hit these cuts is by saying the government does not need to be doing this thing.
And what happened to Trump wanting to cut the defense budget by 50%?
Well, that's after they spend this, and then they'll probably cut it after that. But they need to spend this right now
because then he'll be gone.
Yeah, here's a little bit of and that's the thing. Like, they'll talk about these cuts. I guarantee you they're not going to kick in for a few years, whatever the cuts are, and it's going to be right around election season, and maybe they'll push them off another year after that. And then the next president will have to deal with it after that. Like, that's just, I'm a little bit black pilled today, seeing all this talk and all this momentum and all, all the retweets and the posts and the Elon Musk and the Doge, and we're cutting all this stuff. And then we come out and you literally vote to increase the deficit. Really?
I mean, you start taking honey out of the honey pot.
I know.
The bears get angry about that.
Each one of these things, and they do this on purpose, but each one of these little things in these appropriations, there's something in every congressman's district that can't get cut. And they got a 3-vote margin in the House. Like, there's something in every one of their districts that you just can't cut that thing because it's going to cost whatever the jobs are or whatever it is those people are getting paid, and they're not going to vote to cut it.
I like how Massie was like, well, I was a lean no. Until that meeting, they convinced me.
They convinced me.
I'm definitely a no.
Here's Elon talking in the cabinet meeting. So like everyone, Trump's cabinet is in there and Elon's on the side over here. He stands up and talks and makes some super awkward gestures and jokes, and so just so you know, it's difficult. I wanted to cut some of it out, but whatever.
The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. the interest rates, just the interest on the national debt now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I'm gonna like stack them up, you know. But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, you know, knock on my wooden head, got a lot of wood there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget. And obviously that can only be done with the support of everyone in this room. And I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you very much. This can only be done with your support. So it's really, DOGE is a support function for the president and for the agencies and departments to help achieve those savings and to effectively find 15% in reduction in fraud and waste. And we bring the receipts. So people say like, well, is this real?
So my thing with that is I don't think they're going to find whatever they're calling waste and fraud. I think there's a lot, you know, we can talk about the whole email thing that happened over the weekend. Like, sure, there's probably a lot of dead people that work for the government that, you know, people are collecting their paychecks.
Well, you think about a $7 trillion budget. I mean, I could imagine easily around at least 5 trillion of that is definitely waste.
5 trillion of the 7
Oh,
trillion?
that's wasteful.
Oh, it's what we consider waste.
It's wasteful,
but it's
for
not
sure.
going to be what a lot of people consider waste. And I get all the stuff they're cutting. I mean, I'm not trying to give DOGE or any of them a hard time. They don't really have the authority to, you know, go into Congress's pocketbooks and make them vote to spend less money. But this is really only going to happen if it's not just going to be waste. You can't, we're not spending $1 trillion on DEI programs, probably. I don't know if there's $1 trillion in straight up waste that's, what normal people would consider waste. We consider almost the entire thing to be waste. That's not the case. It's only going to happen if people come to grips with the fact that the government doesn't need to be doing that thing. Point at that thing, whatever it is. We don't need to be doing that thing. That thing is wasteful. And I don't know if that's going to happen. And for them, this happened today. Imagine like standing up there talking about the deficit. We can't be having $2 trillion deficits, and we're spending more on the interest on the debt than we are in the military. You know, the day after Republican Congress just voted to increase the deficit. You know,
yeah,
it's and
it's so wild.
You know, we had a post that was doing pretty well. That I
real
tagged.
quick before you go to that though, I just want people to know if you're watching the video, you heard Elon. It is weird. It's slightly awkward. I know you wanted to cut some of it. But I think it's inspiring, actually. For all you people out there who you're scared to post, you know, you're scared to be in front of the camera, you're scared to have your voice heard or whatever because you feel like you're awkward or weird or whatever. Now, you have the richest man in the world standing in a cabinet meeting joking about having wood inside of his head. So
I think
anyone can do it.
I think
is what I'm saying.
What comes first there is probably the $350 billion, you know, and then it's okay to be super weird.
I don't think
you
so.
know?
I think if you're just authentically yourself.
No,
people
it's okay.
People just enjoy you being who you are.
Everyone just be yourselves.
And
that's the message.
You know, there's weird people out there.
Yeah.
And there's a market for it.
He's an awkward guy. I'll tell you what, it makes me like kind of clam up a little bit.
You say the same thing about my son.
So yeah. That's just all kids. That's just the way that is. Okay, so we talked about this bill.
You're going to talk about the tweet.
Which tweet was I going to talk about?
Thomas Massie.
Oh, why was I going to say that? Oh, because what a lot of people responded to with our tweet where we tagged Thomas Massie this morning, and Congressman Massie, you're more than welcome to retweet that. I know you're listening right now. Is that we're critiquing the fact that they are cutting taxes. And that's not what I'm critiquing. Like, actually, a lot of comments on there are like, oh, basically like
you don't
a
understand how
leftist
this
libertarian,
works. Yeah.
whatever. Like, that's why there's a deficit and all that, but we have to decrease tax. I get that. Just cut the freaking spending. Yeah, cut the taxes. Well,
and again, it's not done. Who cares what the tax rate is?
Yeah, I know.
It's what Milton Friedman said. It's what the government spends.
It is. It doesn't matter
Who
what
cares?
the tax rate
You
is.
can make the tax rate 0. It doesn't matter. You can make the tax rate 100%.
The other weird thing, which
it's what government spends.
I don't know if people are wanting to get into the weeds on this, but I know that we talk about the fact that the government pretty much always takes in about 17% of the GDP. Okay. In saying that keeping tax rates where they are right now will cost roughly $450 billion more per year that we could have gotten in taxes if we raise the tax rates. I did the math on that. They think that we would increase tax receipts to GDP by another 1.5% on top of the nearly 17% that we're taking in right now, meaning in this projection that it's going to cost that much money, they're projecting that if the tax rates went back to what they used to be, that we would start taking in a little over 18% of GDP, which has only happened like 4 times in the history of America. It's always around 17 or a little below that or a little above that. I went through it. I marked a line because to get to that number that you're missing, you have to think that by increasing the taxes, we'll take in another 1.5% of the GDP. And that's why I think that number is totally wrong. Here's the 18% number that they think we would get to if we were to increase taxes back to what they used to be. It's hardly ever happened. There's a period here from 96 to 2001 that it was above 18. There's a period here from 80 to 82. 69 to 70. It tapped it in 1952. And the other times when we're coming out of doing World War II and all that. So the rest of it's been pretty much below that. So on top of that, when they say it's going to cost us $450 billion a year to not raise the taxes, they're not taking into account that people's behaviors change when the tax rate changes. The way that they spend money, the way they invest money, the way that they hide their money, the way they move their money around, it all changes. And no matter what, the average is around 16.8 to 17% of the GDP that they take in. That's why people say, well, if we increase the GDP a bunch, that's how you actually take in more money, not through more taxes. And you just keep the spending the same, and you can actually close the deficit by doing that. Sorry, I know that's in a lot of weeds, but I don't even like their projection of how much it's going to cost to keep the tax rates where they are right now. It's extremely rosy, just so everyone knows. Anyhow, do you got any other thoughts on spending?
We need to cut it.
We do need to cut it.
Yeah,
that's true. I wanted to say my piece on the email situation, although we might end up doing Dumb Bleep of the Week tomorrow since we have so much stuff to do on Friday. But I wanted us to say our piece on the email thing. So as you guys probably know, Elon cracked the whip on people over the weekend. And I mean, he literally got those federal employees out and was hitting them with a whip and sending them an email suggesting that they respond back, get this, with 5 things that they did last week. Didn't even actually specify that it had to pertain to their job, just so you know. It just said 5 things you did last week.
Yeah.
And my God, you would have thought he was literally just shooting people in the head on the street.
In the cotton field.
Yeah. He was out there literally cracking a whip on people after sending them this email.
Yeah.
And
you had the union heads and managers be telling people not to do it.
I know.
It's crazy.
I do not get the freak out over it or how people can justify to freak out over it. And the reason I can't understand that is because of this fact right here. I want you guys to imagine this, like when you probably work today or work sometime this week, there is a portion of the money that you work for this week that's going to get taken out of your check and out of the checks of everyone else. And you guys are all pulling together a pot of money so you can pay these lowly civil servants that probably make more than you and have better benefits and have union protection and all kinds of stuff and can't get fired and all that. great retirement. And they got all that. But those lowly civil servants, that you guys are paying for, the money that you get paid when you see the taxes come out, some of that goes to them. It's not a lot. It's not a big portion of your check that goes to them. It's like how many, 100 million workers or whatever, whatever the number is, workers, and there's 2 million federal employees. And so it's a little bit out of everyone's check that's going to pay those people. But the thought that sending those people an email and asking them to respond with what they did over the week.
5 things.
5 things. They probably would have taken 1 thing or 2 things, but to ask those people what they did with your money last week.
I can't tell you, there's not a single job I've ever had, I don't think, besides maybe serving jobs. But any like regular job that I've had, like a corporate job, anytime, like updates are due all the time.
Yeah.
You have to update like your boss or your boss's boss or someone.
I mean, just to be clear, most of the time they're stupid and they're a waste of time. But, when you spend that half an hour
I'm
on
actually
Friday,
somebody that doesn't,
like, oh, here's what I did. I know you like documentation on stuff.
I don't like documentation. I just think that I think it's important because here's what you have to understand. The leader who has 5, 10, 15, 20 people that they're managing, it's difficult for them to be in everyone's business all week to try to figure out what's going on because they're being asked to report how the teams are doing by their boss.
Yeah.
So you have to have some mechanism of getting an update from your team so you can kind of put it together and tell your boss like, oh, hey, here's what my team is accomplishing. Like there has to be a mechanism for that.
Yeah. In this case, they're really just trying to figure out, first off, like first thing on the list, do these people exist? You realize how many people, they're the largest employer in America is the American government. Okay? They got more employees than everyone else. And
especially when you add in contractors.
Terrible incentive. Yeah, with the contractors, they got 24 million employees, 24 million people that do work for them.
If they pass
on
the PRO
a daily
Act,
basis.
If they pass the PRO Act, they won't be able to have those contractors.
They've all got to get official jobs after that. That's probably the entire thing right there. Just getting all those contractors. But like, you imagine the management. You work in a system that has a terrible incentive structure. Like no one's worried about the company making a profit. Normally you're worried about the company making a profit. And so you want to make sure that every person who's working and who's doing these jobs is working and doing a job and that they exist. You're not just paying a fake person or whatever it is, but that incentive structure does not exist inside of the federal government.
And Elon,
every year they want more money, just more money. And if they did a terrible job this year, they get more money after that.
Even from Republicans.
I know, even Republicans. There is no incentive for the managers or the people there to do their job, for the managers to check and make sure the people even exist in the first place, or the people above them to make sure those people exist. There's no incentive structure for that.
Although we do hear from the people in the organizations, though, that all these people are the most integrous people. They're full of integrity.
There's so much integrity.
They work so hard. Elon even made it easier over the weekend where he said you could literally use Grok to do it.
Yeah, I saw that.
He literally said that would work.
Because check number 1 is that you exist and that you get on your email like a functional human person who can use email. Check number 1. If there was just a FU in the email, it's probably enough to check off box number 1. This person exists. I bet you there's a lot of people that don't.
Someone acting as this person exists.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. Who cares? But they can't even do that, and just the audacity to act like you somehow have a right to this, and it's so wrong for people to ask you to fill out an email and tell someone what you did this week when you're working off the backs of other people's income whole week. It disgusts me.
What an invasion of privacy.
Of their right to privacy as someone who works on stolen money.
The micromanager Elon Musk. Who would have thought?
Oh, yeah, by the way, yeah, sorry. it is a good point. If it were a check by email, I would get fired because they'd be like, oh yeah, that Nate guy, he didn't exist. I'd check it a month later once I finally mustered up the courage to open up the email. And as every day went on, it got harder and harder to open the email. But someday when I'm at my lowest, I decide to open it because it can't get any worse. And I'm like, oh yeah, here's what I did. I literally just described what it takes for me to open email, by the way. That's pretty much what happens.
So you're a federal worker is what you're saying.
Essentially. Yeah. Only I do a whole lot of work.
The difference is you're not beholden. You own your own business. Like you're not beholden to anyone, you know?
I'm just as more and more time goes on, I'm realizing, you know, how as libertarians we've talked so many times about libertarian president's going to get in there and they're going to get rid of all these unconstitutional federal agencies. None of these things should even exist, and they're under the president, and so the president should get rid of all this stuff. And okay, so we found out that apparently that's not the case. You can't, even though you are their bosses, you can't decide that they shouldn't exist, I guess.
You even have a lot of libertarians agreeing with that.
There are even judges, not judges, sorry, but watchdogs basically saying like, yeah, those probationary people that you fired, I don't think it was legal for you to fire them either. And they're probationary. Probationary means that you don't have all the protections of the government union that shouldn't exist yet. That's what probationary means.
And it's still illegal.
And then they get fired, and they're like, yeah, I don't think it was legal for you guys to fire those probationary people. So probationary employees don't even exist.
Yeah.
All right?
Once you get hired, that's it, man. You're in. You're in.
We got to do something to get rid of this gall-darn government union, the many of them that there are. But that what's the AFGE? Yeah, we got to. Government employees should not have unions, y'all. That's one that I'd be okay with outlawing. I wouldn't want to outlaw other unions. You can freely associate with your coworkers, but also you shouldn't be protected by the law from getting fired by the person who freaking owns the business that you work at. So there's protections that shouldn't exist legally for you. But when it comes to a government union, that should be outlawed. I don't see how it's legal in the first place. They're collectively bargaining against someone who has no choice but to pay them, because if they don't, they go to prison. Okay? That is not collective bargaining.
And being paid for by money stolen from you.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so they are bargaining against the taxpayers who have no choice in the matter. They should not exist. It should be illegal. That's something they need to go after immediately. Day one, when I'm president, I'm going to get rid of AFGE. The freaking thing cut out again.
You hit the desk. There's a loose connection.
There's something loose.
There's a loose connection
loose somewhere. I don't know what it is. Huh. It's bad, though. My Wi-Fi cut out at the same time. And I'm not running direct in, but I lost Wi-Fi at the same time.
That's wild.
We got gremlins in our system right now.
There's a desk problem.
All right, let's get out of here.
You need a new desk.
Let's get out of here before life gets any more daft. Come on.
There was one thing I was going to say when it comes to unions is that we have you see all these things in place, like government unions, regular unions, and yet still people will talk about how we're at like peak capitalism. It's like this isn't even capitalism at all.
No.
We have like very few elements of free trade, and almost all of the rest of it is controlled.
Did you see, by the way?
You can see it happening.
Little white pill here from Jeff Bezos today. You know, if you can trust that kind of thing. He shared a note with the Washington Post this morning. There's a change coming to their opinion pages. They're going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars: personal liberties and free markets. So in their opinion section, every day they're going to have that. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others, meaning they're not going to have opinion pieces that are going after free markets and personal liberties. And they're going to be publishing something every day in support of those things.
So that's a white pill.
That's a white pill. I mean, it's a pretty big, I'm going to call it a newspaper, online publication. I guess they probably print stuff. I don't know. It's a pretty big publication. And a lot of people are going to be really mad about this. I believe their editor quit over this. I mean, it's just like write in support of free markets.
I'm
Oh my
out of
God.
here.
You're not going to allow people to post opinions on how we should destroy the best system that ever existed in the history of human civilization and that, has prevented billions of people from dying of starvation.
Even though our tagline is democracy dies in darkness.
Whatever. He owns the thing and he can make that decision. That's fine. People are going to argue
Well, as long
that
as the Washington Post Union doesn't have a say.
Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see. A judge is probably going to rule whether or not he has the right to do this at his own company. But anyhow, let's get out of here. There's a little potential white pill for you.
Yeah, potential, but don't get your hopes up.
I guess that means I'll keep the WAPO subscription. They might have some good stuff.
All right, y'all. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share the show with a friend, a family member, or foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which we've seen some few come in lately, so thank you for that. It does help the algorithms when people are searching for podcasts. I think we should, one thing we didn't mention is Starship is as close as ever to getting to Mars and all of that.
It's close as it's ever been.
We didn't mention our bid to be the first Liberty podcast on Mars.
No, I filled out that paperwork the other day.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say we didn't mention that we were going to be speaking and hanging out at the LPTN State Convention.
Oh, that too.
In Chattanooga.
That too, but that's not happening on Mars.
Yeah, that's true.
That's happening in Chattanooga.
That's a good point.
Tennessee, which is part of the United States, which is America, okay? And that's on the current planet Earth. We're not a two-planet species yet, but we will be probably in our lifetime. Would you go?
Huh?
Would you go if it happens in our lifetime?
No. If other people have returned safely,
you're going to wait till
I would do it.
Trump rehires those FAA members.
Yeah.
So that it's
I'm going to have proper regulation over that stuff.
Okay.
Then
there's
no incentive otherwise.
All right, go visit all the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. Go to godhatesfeds.com or join gmail.com. Be part of the Fed Haters Club. I've seen a lot of people lately say that they haven't joined Fed Haters Club, but they have shared it with other people.
That's good
to join, and that they appreciate what we do every single day, and we should keep it up.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
We're gonna try to do that to the best of our abilities until our abilities decline in a way that prevents us from doing this. So, you got another 20 years in you?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if I have another 2 minutes in me right now.
Before you pee.
No, that's not. I'm just going to, it's almost 3 p.m., which means I've almost been awake for 12 hours.
Well, you can go.
Right now.
You can go. I'll finish up.
No, you're good.
All right. Do all those things or don't. I don't really care, but Nate does, obviously. Listen to the way he bitches and moans about it. And do all those things or don't. If you do, we'll be back again tomorrow for probably Don't Believe It. And if you, I don't know what I'm saying.
You stay
anymore.
classy.
You stay classy. And we'll talk again tomorrow. Good morning, Liberty.